You've tuned into Tomcat Tales, the story of Ashland's legends from the gridiron, the court, the diamond, and beyond. It's a deep dive into Ashland Tomcat sports history. Now, here's your host, Mark Maynard.
Well, welcome back into Tomcat Tales, and we're at an exciting point in this journey through Coach Herb Conley's years at Ashland from 1968 to 1976. Herb, we're in 1975. Let me tell you just a couple of things that happened in 1975 besides the Tomcats being really good. It was the year at the Vietnam War. They finally said, that's it, it's over. And that was the year, 1975. Here's a blast from the past. 1975 was when Wheel of Fortune started. That's when it debuted. Of course, it's, Van is still going strong today, turning those letters, but it started in 1975. Also, something that started in 1975 that a lot of people still enjoy today is Saturday Night Live. That was the first year, 1975.
I was too interested in coaching.
And the Steelers, of course, that was the Iron Curtain Steelers. They were so good. They beat the Vikings in the Super Bowl that year.
And
Bradshaw and Jack Ham, and man, just that's your kind of football team, I think. Those guys knock your head off.
Oh yeah.
Also, baseball is one of my loves, and 1975, the Reds had the maybe the greatest baseball team ever assembled, and they won their first World Series since I think 1940. So it had been a long time since they'd won a World Series. They'd been in a few, but they hadn't won one. And 1975, Johnny Bench and company, Joe Morgan, all that, they beat the Red Sox in that great World Series, that people still say maybe the best World Series of all time.
Yeah.
People still talk about that.
Pete Rose.
Yeah, Pete Rose on that team, of course.
Yeah.
Sparky Anderson, just a great team. And also in 1975, and this is kind of a good segue into what we're going to be talking about, the blockbuster movie Jaws. That's when it first came out in 1975, and I'll tell you where I saw it, and you're going to tell me here in a minute about when you saw it first. I saw it. It was at the cinemas, and Bill Hornbuckle was working at the theater at that time, and I was working at the newspaper, and the movies came in late Saturday nights, and they didn't show them till the next week, but they came in these big metal cases, and Jaws was there. And he calls me, and it was after work on a Saturday night. It was about midnight, and he and I sat up at the movie theater at Midtown, and we sat there and watched Jaws. He put it up, put the movie on, and we watched that thing. Man, what a movie!
Yeah.
So, but anyway, 1975 was a great year for Tomcat football. You guys won 14 games, and that's only happened one other time, and that was in 1990 in Tomcat history. One of the greatest teams in Tomcat history. You all finished 14-1, losing to St. X in the championship game. But man, and we'll talk about that later about St. X. But this team was known as Jaws, and so to get this thing kicked off, we're going to have a good long show today, I guarantee you. To get this thing kicked off, tell us a little bit about how that came about.
Well, I'll tell you what, Mark, during the summer, the wife and I always took the family and went to Myrtle Beach. We went down there, and the boys kept going out in the water too much, and there's sharks at that time going up and down the ocean. And Janice was getting pretty upset about it, the kids going out too and getting out too far. Well, I heard about the movie Jaws coming on, but nobody knew anything about it. I said, there's a movie on the show tonight. We'll go take them down there. I said, that might get them a little scared. Well, we take them to the.
Now, how old are the boys at this point?
Oh shoot, they're probably
8, 9.
Yeah. I'd say Greg's probably 9, and Sean was about 7, and Jeff was 5.
Okay.
And so we take them to the movie. We come home, and I'll tell you, during the movie, one of them was sitting on one side of me, and one on the other side, and then the other was sitting by Janice. And I don't know which was which, but they were sitting there, and I kept looking at them while they were sitting there. This is kind of hugging up. They're scared to death. But anyway, we watched the movie. And the next day, we go to the beach. Well, they sitting up there. They had their bathing trunks on, but they had their shoes on and their socks on and a shirt on and a hat. I said, guys, aren't you going in the ocean? No, not today, Dad. I don't think I'm going to go in. I said, okay. And then they said, we'll go back to the trailer. We're going back at the campground and just play out there. I said, okay. And I said, I'll be down in a few minutes. And Janice said, they're scared. I said, I know they're scared. But from that time, they would like every time we went to Myrtle Beach, and we went to every summer, and then after that we went many times, but they would not go into the ocean. So we might have scared them for life.
So that was a frightening movie,
It sure
and
was.
especially for young boys like that, I'm sure, and especially at the beach, you know, and you watch this shark come up and just eat people, basically, you know. So, do you get the idea? You think about the movie too a little bit, obviously,
Yeah.
and then you think,
Well, I don't think about it while I'm there. I started thinking about it after
Okay.
I got home. And I was thinking one day, you know, we just been started practice, hadn't practiced too long. And I got thinking, I said, I told the coaches after practice one day, I was telling them about that and how it scared the boys. And I said, what do you think about if we name our defensive team Jaws? I said, yeah, that'd be a good idea. I said, what if we do that, something like that? If we don't pan out and we don't play well, they'll laugh us out of town and it'll be awful. I said, imagine whatever has happened to me in the past, it'll be the worst thing that ever come about. And so we just dropped it. And then next day after practice, Bill Tom and Mike come up to me again and said, Coach, I think that's a pretty good idea. We ought to think about that. I said, well, give me a little more time and we'll think about it. And that evening, Bill Tom comes by the house and we talk a few minutes, and then I go the next day, and then Mike's over there waiting for me at school. And I think they had a plan, and he talked to me about it. So I got thinking about it, and one day after practice, this is right before the games started, we were still not in school at that time, we were practicing, and I told the coaches, I said, I've been thinking about that more. I think it's a pretty good idea. And I said, but we're not going to name it until I want to name it. And I said, I'm not going to name it until they prove to me in practice and in a game that they're deserving of that. Well, we name it and talked to the team about it the first day after the movie. We got home.
you hadn't named it yet. You told the team they might name it, right?
Yeah. I said, this is
got to prove it first.
Yeah, we got to do it. But before we name anything like that, you got to prove it to me.
Because that could backfire.
Oh, yeah, it could backfire.
You give up 30 points in the first game. And,
they say there's Jaws.
Jaws with no teeth. Or you can hear it. It'd have been awful.
It would have been something else. But anyway, after we talked about it and talked to the team about it, and they were all fired up about it, they said, when are we going to name it, Coach? I said, well, wait till we start playing, and I want to see how you play and how you hit and how you block people and your enthusiasm. Just see what you would do, as if you really mean as a shark.
Now, you had to have an idea, though, that these guys could maybe live up to that.
Well, yeah, I thought they could, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
Because this team still was, the year before that, we were, I think, 6'3", wasn't we?
Yeah.
And I was kind of skeptical of wanting to make a name something like that right now. Well, anyway, we opened up with Johnson Central.
Right.
And we're playing, and we're doing well at hitting them, and we have them. We're about 30 points, I think. There's nothing at halftime, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure of that, but we had a big score. Well, Chuck Anderson, it was in the third quarter, I believe. He hit somebody, and their quarterback knocked their quarterback, I believe, it knocked him out of the game, but knocked the breath out of Chuck. Well, Chuck's laying down there on the ground, and when I go out there and see what's wrong, he said, Coach, I can't breathe. And so, back in those days, we'd get him by the belt buckle and
lift him up
and try to get some air to him. And as I'm doing that, he looks at me and said, hey, Coach, is there we going to be named Jaws? I said, what? Is we going to be named Jaws? I said, yes, we are.
He thought that might ruin the name of Jaws if he's hurt or something.
Yeah. I said, yes. I said, you knocked him out. You just got the breath knocked out. I said, we're not going to act like we know anything about that. Just get up and go on. He said, I can get up, just help me. He got up, he was holding his breath, it looked like he was trying to get his breath.
Yeah.
And from that point on,
did you like tell the newspaper after the game we're going to do this, or how did that go? Do you remember?
Don't remember how that ever come about. I tell you who pushed that was Bill, Tom, and Mike. Pushed it more than I pushed it. I pushed it with the team, but they pushed it with the
press,
and the press and the band.
Right, the band played the theme.
Oh yeah, Bill Tom got the band and talked to him about playing that. They had the band. They had it all, and Mike was doing something. They had it figured out how they were going to do it.
Of course, Bill Tom is Bill Tom Ross. Mike Holdsaffel, they're both assistant coaches. Had been with you several years. Yeah. Bill Tom has been with you since 1970.
Yeah, well, they both are the same time. Well, Bill Tom was a student
assistant at that time. Yeah, and they both came on full time 71. Yeah. So they've been through some good teams with you. Yeah. They had to know too. We got some hitters on this team. Yeah. And, I don't know that you had a bigger hitter than Chuck.
No.
I mean, he
had the best hit ever.
We're going to get there. We're going to get there. Yeah, you're right. That's the baddest cat hit of all time, maybe. Yeah. One of, anyway. That John Central game you talked about, you alluded to there, you guys opened up with them and beat them 47-14. You had an injury in that game. You didn't know it at the time. Even Greg Jackson, who was a starting running back, a senior, tough. You were expecting big things from him, and he broke his ankle. He played on a broken ankle. And still, I think he gained over 100 yards in the game.
Yeah, I think he had 104 yards and scored two. Well, no, he scored one touchdown. I think it was two. And he played a lot of defense in that game. Played offense.
Right.
And rushed for over 100 yards. I didn't even know he was hurt until after the game. He comes in. He's kind of limping. He said, "Coach, kind of hurt my ankle a little bit, but I'll be all right." I said, "Okay." And
so you're like, "Okay, that's fine."
Yeah, you'll be all right. And then to go the next day. He comes. I think he comes to my house. He's got a cast on.
Oh wow!
I said, "What there they put that cast on?" I said, "What's they come? There was a diagnosis on that." He said, "I have a broken ankle." I said, "You're kidding me." I said, "How long?" He said, 4 to 6 weeks. I thought, and he was just coming on. Yeah. He was really at that time. I think he was the fastest back we had.
Wow, even faster, Gary.
I think so. I'm not sure which one could win. The one that ran a 40-yard dash.
You know what's funny? You mentioned that a few years ago, just 2 or 3 years ago. Chuck and Dave Early and Greg, we all met over at Putnam Stadium, and they had a 50-yard dash. They raced from the 50. There. Oh, were you there? Okay. Yeah. And Greg smoked him. Yeah. I mean, he was running backwards, going into the end zone. And this is 40 years later, or whatever. And but anyway, Greg, great athlete, just big-hearted guy. Played hard. That's a tough loss.
Yeah, it was a tough loss for us because Jeff Sloan too. Both of them had good speed. Both of them were quick, good blockers. Both of them could block real good on the corners. Mm-hmm. I mean, being a back, you have to be able to block good on the corners. Pierre Harshaw was a great one at that. Right. Gary Thomas was a good one. All the backs, right. Jeff Sloan. Greg.
Yeah.
I mean, we had many good blockers on it.
You had you did have kind of the perfect wishbone type offense, and we should mention Jeff Sloan kind of stepped in for Greg, got more carries. I guess he would have gotten a lot of carries anyway, but he ends up 1,000-yard rusher. Gary Thomas was your leading rusher, and he almost gained 2,000 yards. He had 1,754 yards. Gary was only a junior that year too. That opener, Herb, he gained against John Central, which was a 47-14 win. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure you're right. It was like 36-0 at halftime or 30-0 at halftime. It was pretty much over, at that point. Which I know people think of John Central now, wasn't quite the same as they're such a juggernaut now. No. I mean, they'd be hard to handle. Yeah. But it's still it was a great opening win, home win at Putnam Stadium. Like I said, Gary rushed for 182. Jeff rushed for 108. Gary scored 3 touchdowns and Jeff scored 1. I think Greg at least got 1 that night as well. So the next week, I think this next game is the game that really set the stage because Bryan Station was ranked number 1 in the state. They're coming to Putnam Stadium. And let's talk about that game.
Well, I knew that after that we'll talk about a hit.
That's in this game.
In this Bryan Station game. Bryan Station was very good. Matter of fact, they told me after we played the game, that we were the best team they've seen this year, and they scrimmaged San X.
Wow.
And said we were better than San X. Well, I didn't know anything about San X at that time. And I just kind of let it slide and go. But they was talking about him. I said, well, they scrimmaged him and did pretty well. But I still didn't know anything about it. But Bryan Station has always got talent.
Oh, yeah.
Matter of fact, on that team that we're talking about, I think that and I'm not sure of this, but I think they had 2 players. One went to pros and played in the pros, and one just was up and then didn't make it. 1982, Bryan Station had 3 guys on that team were pros and made it for big time.
Yeah, and a couple of them were all pro.
Oh, yeah, all pro.
Yeah, they weren't just making the league.
So that's right.
Yeah.
So that's the type of talent Bryan Station's always had. They've always had good coaches, too.
Yeah.
And most of them have been coaches at the University of Kentucky, and then when things happened, they took the job there at Bryan Station.
You had some really good success against them over the years, though. Really, I mean, your teams did.
Yeah.
Your teams played well against them. Played well on this night. A key play in the game, and the hit we're going to talk about. It was a punt, and Rick Sang ends up with it on a reverse, which you all did a lot, and he's headed for the sideline. He's headed for the end zone, and I've set the stage. You finished it off for that.
Mark, most people don't run like we run. We run a wall to the right and a wall to the left. We run up in the middle of the wall. People don't do that anymore. They just catch it and run straight up. And we set up blocking schemes for it. And we scored many times on.
Your special teams were big.
Special teams were, and we worked on the special teams, but
that hit, I mean, and I'm sure you probably know this or probably remember, but Chuck was actually the nose guard on that play. Did you know that?
Yeah,
he was over the center.
I knew we had to put him in there every so often, especially when we was in the run or return. We want to hold that center up, maybe not.
Right, you wanted to hit that center hard every time, so let's put Chuck Anderson there and just knock his head off, which was the idea, right?
Yeah.
Maybe the next time that guy snaps, it goes over the punter's head or whatever.
Yeah.
So, and I've watched the video 100 times. Chuck he's that guy. He's over the center, and he blasts the center just like he's coached to do. And then he doesn't stop. He's got the center on the ground. I mean, that's all his job was, really. But he peels back, and then what happens?
Well, when he peeled back, see, we was setting a wall up. I think it's to the right side, to the press box side. And that's the wall was supposed to be set up there. And I could see that wall forming. It looked so great. And then here Rick made a good move. He made a beautiful move and moved somebody out there and got to get to the corner. When he got to the corner, there's nobody there but a guy coming, looked like a kid from Bryan Station, and it looked a big kid.
Coming like midfield, right?
Yeah, he was coming across about the midfield, about where we were, right in front of me. And I could see Chuck.
Full speed.
He was full speed, both of them. The guy going to tackle Rick. I said, there's going to be a collision here. I was thinking to myself. And next thing I know, it hit. Greg hit him, and when he hit him, this is the God's truth.
Yeah, Chuck Anderson hit him. Yeah,
Chuck, the ball went straight up in the air. The helmet went straight up. I thought his head was in it. I did. I was scared. I thought, this is going to be bad.
Just kill the guy.
Yeah, well, I thought, I said, Greg, knocked his head off. I said, his head's in his helmet. And I thought about Chuck.
Yeah.
And Chuck said, Coach, I hit him. I said, I know you hit him. And he said, it's a good hit. He said, I remember him asking me if he thought that was a bad cat. I said, it'd be a bad cat for eternity.
Yeah.
But I'm not kidding you. And everybody from that point on set the stage of how the rest of the game went. We hit them.
Oh, yeah.
It was a great game. They were tough.
And if that player was knocked unconscious, he wasn't moving on your sideline.
Yeah.
And I guess I think they finally got the smelling salts.
Yeah, well, I don't know what to do.
Or ammonia.
We got our guys to decide.
Yeah.
we didn't know.
You thought he was hurt.
Yeah, I thought he was hurt really
Well,
bad.
you thought he was dead at first.
Well, I did.
Yeah.
I thought his head. I mean, that's true. I thought his head went off.
And you're that close to that kind of contact. I mean, I'm sure that just sounded vicious too.
Oh, it was awful. I mean,
because the guy never saw him, did he?
Well, no, he didn't see him, and unless he, right at the end, he
Last
might have
second,
turned
maybe,
around.
yeah.
But when he hit him, I knew his heart, and he was going to be hurt.
Yeah.
And then when I saw, then that helmet popped up. And see, when it popped up, I was looking up, and then when I looked back, the kid was laying down, but his couldn't
see his head.
His head was headed towards the other side.
Yeah.
So I couldn't see, and I thought, uh-oh.
This is not good.
And, I thought, what's going to happen here? This is awful.
Wow. We've mentioned a couple names. Chuck Anderson. What a great player. Middle linebacker, quarterback. Hard to get that combination, but he sure played the role, didn't he?
Yeah, he sure did. And everybody asked me, said, "I've never seen a quarterback play where you play linebacker in there, and how he hits and plays, and he plays quarterback." He said, "But he can do the job, can't he?"
Nothing soft about that guy.
Yeah, he's a
And
leader.
we talked about Rick Sang. Of course, we've spoken about Rick even in that last episode. Rick was a senior that year. It's Bob Sang's son. You knew Bob very well, and coach at Huntington East at the time, and a coach who coached for 50 years. You got a lot of respect for that guy. Mm-hmm. And I know he helped build the Tomcat weight room basically with bringing things up. Rick, Rick's one of my best friends. Just for just full disclosure, but he was a great football player.
Very good. He was a great runner. He was a great blocker. He was a good receiver. He could punt.
Yeah.
He could catch it. He could do anything with the football that you wanted someone to do. I always told you that I should have played him at a halfback quite a bit and get him more touches.
You got Gary Thomas and Jeff Sloan and Jay Shippey and Greg Jackson, and it's kind of hard to find a place there. And Jim Johnson, who was a good fullback as well. This team's got a lot of talent. You don't, of course, and we both know what linemen mean to good teams, and man, this team had them.
We sure did. We had Terry Lewis at the center.
Strong as an ox.
He's big boy, good kid, smart, intelligent, played hard. And Big Terry Bell, he played just strong.
Best lineman in the state, probably.
Well, he was voted the best lineman in the state that year.
Right.
He was voted that. And then beside him had Big Casey. And then
Casey goes on to sign with UK.
Yeah, sign with UK. And then we had Rick Sang playing the tight end. Of course, we played him tight end, split end.
So that right side was pretty solid.
Strong. It was very solid. And then the left side, we were no slouches. We had Yancey Ramey at the quick guard, and Yancey's about 6'3", about 220. He could trap. He could block straight ahead.
Athletic.
Very athletic.
Strong.
Yeah. And he was a hitter. And
then Big Raymond Hicks on the other tackle.
And then Raymond, Raymond was smallest one. He's about 6'2", weighed about maybe 200 pounds. But old Raymond was kind of the father of the group. He acted older than the rest of them. I always called him Raymond. I'd say when I'd call him that, he'd laugh and give me a big smile. He knew I was happy. But if I said, Raymond, you come here.
That was bad, yeah.
He said, Coach, I always know when I've done well because you gave me Raymond.
Keith Hillman was a receiver. On the other side, Dougie Page.
Yeah.
We've talked about Dougie, or we've talked about Shellcroft, and he's in the same mold as that.
Both of them.
Or that kind of player. Yeah. Dougie wasn't very big. I mean,
the block.
But
Dougie Page.
You all listed Dougie at 5'4", 115.
Yeah, well,
that's a little football player.
He was about. He was about 5. We moved him up from the year before that. I think he come to me crying about needed to.
Put him heavier or bigger?
Put him a little bigger. Because that don't look good.
He could, I tell you what, that guy could put a guy on the ground as a downfield blocker as well as anybody I've ever seen.
Exactly. And I'll tell you what, when we played Paducah, he was, that end from Paducah was 6'5",
wow.
235. Went to Notre Dame. Dougie blocked him all night.
Wow. Just locked him down.
Yes.
You just had I don't know, you had a lot of great players. You had
let me tell you about Keith Hillman a minute.
Yeah. Tell us that story about Keith.
Yeah, Keith was. It caused him a little problem there. Well, I don't know if I should tell you right now. We haven't got.
We got a long way to get to that game, but
let's wait.
We'll wait. Okay. Well, let's go on. You're 2-0 now. You've beat the number one team in the state, and Ashland is suddenly ascending to that spot because when you beat those teams, you guys were top 5 at that time, I think, at least. So people are starting to notice. Okay, they beat Bryan Station. You beat John Central. That's one thing, but you beat Bryan Station, the number one team, 22-12. Jimmy Johnson actually was leading rusher in that game for the Tomcats. Had 59 yards, tough yards, because he was your fullback.
Jimmy was a tough one, buddy. He's a good runner.
He's a good athlete again.
Yeah, he's a good athlete.
And Gary ran for 38 yards, but the punt return was huge in that game. I think you were up 12-0 at the time. Or maybe that puts you up 12-0. I can't remember, but it was a big play in the game.
Our defense won the game.
Yeah,
we played good defense, and we got a little relaxed there in the I think it's third quarter, and then we buckled back down in the fourth quarter.
So you're starting to feel a little better about this Jaws thing at this point, I would think.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, after the game, I was real sold on it. I thought we may be really fly and take a real big run on it now.
Yeah. The next week you play another home game. You play Hazard. And, they've never been your friend. Mm-hmm. So the Jaws clamped down on them 29-0. Thomas rushed for 150 yards. He was hard to contain.
Yeah.
And the blocking, my goodness. And you take his speed with that blocking, and that's a deadly thing for anybody that's playing the Tomcats that year.
Another thing, Mark, like when we scored 29 points, a lot of times I think I did a real good job of getting everybody in the game.
Because this team was going to beat people bad.
Yeah, and I didn't let that happen.
Yeah.
I didn't want to embarrass anybody, but most of all, I wanted to get our kids, the younger kids, playing time. That means so much to keep your program going. Is keep people playing and keep them interested. They're interested and get them experience.
You're rare for 76 because you're going to lose these guys.
Yeah, exactly.
And this was a great senior group, and this was a group, just like we talked about
71, 72.
Yeah, from those years.
Yeah.
That you had to know this team is potentially really good because we got guys that have played for 3 years.
Exactly. Yeah, we thought we were going to be good. You never know.
Yeah.
I've seen teams that all experience come back and not do anything.
Right.
But
so week 4 you go to Greenup County. You wax them pretty hard, 40-14. This was only Greenup's second year. After the consolidation of all those schools, they're still going through the growing pains. Heck, they're still doing it now, going through growing pains. It's been 50 years. It's just a tough thing when you consolidate, because you have different groups are angling to stay in power, and McHale was the football school down there always, and had great teams, played the Tomcats close a couple times at least, and, with Gullett and those guys. But anyway, you win this game 40-14. Thomas has another big game, 148 yards. Jeff Sloan is starting to emerge. And, let's talk about Jeff a little bit. Not a big guy, but he's another little powerhouse kind of runner, wasn't he?
He was like Greg Jackson, almost identical runners.
Yeah.
They both were shifty. They both could block. They both could read blocks. And
both had speed.
They had good speed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They could break it. They go 60, 70 yards for a touchdown.
This team had a lot of team speed when
you with linemen too. We had good speed with the linemen. Our biggest thing with this team, it all showed in the state final game with Senex, is we didn't have enough depth.
Yeah, right.
71 had more depth. I've told you.
Mm-hmm. Most depth you've had.
Yeah, they had more depth of that team than any team.
We were talking before we went on here. You said probably 18 players, that you played that you would consider first team guys or guys that played majority of the time.
Yeah.
And we'll get to St. X, and when that comes around, they're bringing 11 new ones on for every part of the game.
Exactly.
So that now, like you said, that kind of caught up with you at that point. The next game is one of the biggest, I think, in Ashland history. One of the biggest crowds ever. Of course, Ironton always brings people. Ironton I'm pretty sure they were undefeated at that point too in the season, and they had Kenny Fritz, who was a high school All-American who was already committed to Ohio State. You know, if you're in Ohio and you are committed to the Buckeyes, you're a pretty big deal.
Exactly.
And you're pretty good.
Exactly.
And he was.
Exactly.
I mean, there weren't many better football players in this area or in the state of Ohio.
He played the Bengals. He went and played pro ball with the Bengals.
Unbelievable player.
Yeah.
I remember watching that game, and it was one of the hardest hitting games I believe I've ever seen. You guys shut them out, and to me, this was the game that Jaws became really real. You know, no, Bryan Station, that too, but you shut out a very good Ironton team that
one
had
of the best teams they had.
That had an All-American.
Yeah,
and Bob Lutz was the coach.
Oh yeah,
of that team, and one of the greatest coaches in America.
I think he was the greatest high school football player in America. I do.
Yeah, I mean, he was just
at that time.
I mean, that guy never lost hardly.
No.
You know, he was. I'm sure he was a tough guy to go against always. You know, Bob Lutz was just.
We
a
always
tremendous
had
coach.
good success against him.
You did. You all. Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
I mean, you all
never lost to him.
Isn't that something? I mean, you're probably the only guy in America that's never lost to him.
Well, I bet you that anybody's played him over 2 times couldn't say that.
Right. Yeah, you all beat them. The year before, you beat them 14-13 at their place. And this year, you beat them 14-0. Again, Gary Thomas, 103 yards rushing. Jeff Sloan, 72. But defense told that story.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
You all. But gosh, Herb, I remember the kickoff of that game. I think you all kicked off. And I've never seen such collisions.
Yeah.
I mean, both ways. It was just bodies.
It sure was.
I mean, just
the whole volume.
And that place was packed.
Yeah, Coach Roy Kidd coached me at Eastern and coached there a long time at Eastern, won a couple of national championships.
Right.
He told me after the game, it was the best high school football game he'd seen.
Wow.
At that time, up to that time.
Wow.
And he said it was a great play.
That says a lot right there, doesn't it? I mean, for him to say that is amazing. So, it's kind of tough coming off that game, but here you are now. You guys are 5-0, and I'm pretty sure at this point maybe have emerged to number 1 ranking.
Well, I really thought we got the number 1 ranking.
Maybe after Bryan Station.
After Bryan Station.
Yeah, I think you did.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that, carrying that a little bit? I mean, it can be good and bad, right?
Well, I always told the kids, I said, boys, if we're number 1, you got to play like you're number 1. And you could lose it just like Bryan Station. They come in here number 1.
Yeah.
But you got to prove it.
Right.
And they didn't prove it. So we got that on our shoulders now.
Yeah.
We got to go with it.
Yeah, and it can be a motivator, though.
Yeah. It's something to take pride in.
You want to be number 1, right?
Yeah. You want to finish number 1, but you still would like to be it all year if you can.
Right. So, of course, at this time we're in the OKAC, Ohio Kentucky Athletic Conference, and which means that, and of course, the Ironton game was one of those games. It's a border conference. You got West Virginia teams in it. You got Portsmouth, Ohio in it. Ironton, of course.
It was a good league, and good competition.
Yeah.
And I was very upset when they did away with it.
Yeah, they had
we there when I was there. We 75. We won it, but they didn't name a winner that year. We won the.
They did. What 76 was when it really started, I guess. But you were still playing those teams already.
Yeah,
I got you.
Everybody had to make.
So you really weren't. Yeah, you weren't okay. They didn't have it till 76. You're right.
Yeah,
that's right. So anyway, Barbersville, of course, is one of those teams, and you all play them at home, and they're really no match. It's 41-6. Pretty easy game for you guys. Thomas 148 yards. Chuck Anderson threw for 144 in that game. How about that?
I think we had Barbersville 41-0 at halftime, wasn't it?
I think it was, yeah. And you played a lot of different people.
Yeah, we played. They just played. The starters just played about 3 minutes.
And probably in that game, I would say, Chuck didn't throw that much all year. He threw 85 passes, in 15 games total. So that's about 7 a game, which is about right.
Yeah,
that's about what he threw.
Yeah.
And in fact, he actually threw more interceptions than he did touchdowns. But anyway, in this game, he hooked up with, and I'm sure Rick Sang was one of them he hooked up with, because Rick actually had a lot of receiving yards, 340. They were just 18 catches, 3 touchdowns. Yeah. Jim Johnson were most of those out of the backfield.
Yeah,
he caught 10 balls, and he was second on the team.
We had a fullback fake. We were running like a 36 to the fullback up in off the tackle. If he wasn't tackled, he just leveled off out in the flat. That's where he caught most of his.
But of course, you didn't ask Chuck to pass. I mean, wasn't
his road.
Yeah, he just
to either run it, get 3 or 4
ball
yards,
handling.
or pitch it.
Yeah, if you run it
and ball handling.
And he was going to, he wasn't the fastest guy on the road, but he wasn't slow.
No,
he had, and he was strong. He was like a fullback.
Yeah, well, he's strong. He's one of the strongest guys on our team.
Yeah, so
him and Rick Singh.
So he carried a lot. He actually carried it 96 times. He gained 53, but he lost a lot on passes. When he got sacked or whatever, which people probably weren't. What are you doing passing? That's probably why you didn't pass much too. So the next week you got rival Russell at Russell. I know you get tired of Russell. You lost to them in 74. You lost to them in 73. The last 2 years, the Red Devils had beat you guys, and I know that got under your skin. Mm-hmm. It got under the player's skin. I think they were ready for this one, weren't they?
Oh yeah, we come in. I never will forget. It's kind of rained before the game, and the field was wet. And we started coming out, and Bill Tom always liked to run first and take a team out.
Yeah.
He went flying out on that field, and Buddy slipped. He fell, went in that mud and water, and the players went by, and I could hear them laughing. And I was getting mad, and I said, "What are you guys laughing at? Get your minds on the game." And then one of the, I think John Tuttle come and say, "Hey, Coach, don't get mad at the kids." Bill Tom took off running, and they said, "Look at him. He was mad. He looked like he'd been playing." I said, "What happened to you?" And he said, "I fell, Coach." And I said, "Oh gosh."
So
I didn't think starting good.
So no wonder they were laughing. Well, Jeff Sloan goes nuts in that game, and you I don't know how many yards y'all rushed for, but Jeff ran for 235, and Gary Thomas ran for 158. So that's almost 400 between those two, and I know more people ran. Yeah. You probably ran for 600 yards that game.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
The wishbone was rocking.
Yeah, it sure was.
And 29-7 victory over the Red Devils, so that helped a little bit. The next week, your old nemesis, Huntington High, the game you cannot get your mind on, Herb. But the last few years we've talked about, you've lost to them, and I know you get frustrated. They're another team that's really frustrated.
Yeah.
You just haven't played well.
Yeah.
And this one is at Fairfield Stadium, a place you've won a couple games there, but you've lost probably more than you've won there.
Yeah.
And you haven't played well.
Exactly.
It's not. Sometimes you won, but you didn't play well.
Yeah, exactly.
And Huntington High, here they come. It's a rainy night. I remember that.
Oh yeah.
And soggy field, and probably people weren't ready to play. Who knows? Huntington High's pretty good though too.
Yeah. They're always talented.
Yeah, they're always good.
Yeah, got a lot of
you better be ready, or you're going to get beat.
Exactly.
That was a close one. 12-6. You guys pull out the win, and at this point now the kids, especially, maybe you aren't, but the kids are thinking undefeated. So you're undefeated. You're ranked number 1. Man,
we've been number 1,
and you've been number 1 since week 2 or week 3. Yeah, after winning in week 2.
Yeah,
that's a lot on high school kids.
Yeah.
To say. The town they're excited.
Yeah, with Huntington High coming in and us playing them,
it
wasn't a real good timing as far as way things go. You're undefeated,
right?
And
you've worn out some people here recently.
Yeah, been beating, winning big. It's easy to get the big head. Think you're better than what you are.
Right. The kids are in the paper. Everybody's talking about how great you are. Oh, Jaws, the music's playing. Everybody's patting them on the back.
Exactly.
And boy, Huntington High just about got you guys. Do you remember much about that game?
Not really.
Yeah.
Not really.
Just that you won, right? Jeff had 91, Jeff Sloan, 91 yards rushing, Thomas, 75 yards rushing. So it looked like you moved the ball pretty well. Maybe you fumbled some.
Well, I think we fumbled 3 times in that game.
Okay, a wet game.
Yeah, I think we fumbled 3 times. I don't think I was too satisfied with that.
Yeah. You told me earlier, we were talking, and you said you kind of sensed something after that game or during that game, even that practice that week.
Well, I kind of felt like we were tired, that we lost some zip. There's something wrong, and I couldn't put my finger on it. I was really worried about it. And then after we played, I come back and did some thinking about it, and I
those guys were worried. I know. I've talked to a lot of them. They were
well,
worried on Monday because they're like, we played terrible. We got lucky and won. It's gonna be a murder practice Monday.
Yeah, exactly. They were coming in Monday ready to go. But Sunday, after we had our meeting, we had watched film with the players. Mm-hmm. After that, the coaches, we watched the films too. Mm-hmm. And after we went through our film sessions and everything, I told the coaches we may go to a movie Monday. I said, I don't know nobody say a word about it. So I got and told Hank Hillman, who's a Boosters Club president. Mm-hmm. I said, Hank, we need 2 buses. And I said, we're going to take them. We're not going to practice tomorrow. We're going down to the Paramount Theater and watch the game. Or watch the...
What? You remember what movie you watched?
No. No, I don't know what. It's a pretty good movie, they say. I had no idea what it was. I was bored to death.
You'd really been on the football field.
Yeah. I didn't know whether I was making the right decision or not, see, but I said, we're going to take it. I told the coaches.
What did the play, how'd they react to that?
Well, I told the coaches, I said, when they come in to practice that Monday, I said, we're not going to practice today. They said, we're not going to practice. I said, no, keep your clothes on. Don't get your coach's stuff on. And the players are coming in. I said, keep your clothes on. Don't put your pads or anything on. We don't need them. And I could hear what's going on,
They're worried.
Yeah, he's going to take us someplace else and practice.
Yeah.
That's what they thought. Yeah, they thought I was really going to take him someplace else and wear him out. And but anyway, we loaded up the bus and everybody got out. And of course, the drivers knew where we were going. I'd already told them. So we pulled up down in front of the Paramount. And
I guess you'd obviously called the Paramount.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Hank had went ahead of us.
Okay.
And all the kids had to do is walk in, and get popcorn and Coke and candy bars and stuff like that. They went in. They was passing them out to them, and they go in. I didn't see them. They didn't say what quiet.
They were probably thinking Hankton High game was going to be up on the big screen. Yeah, he wants to show us these mistakes.
Yeah, they were looking. I didn't think of that. They looking at each other and looking at each other. Not a sound. We go in there and watch a movie. I don't think anybody said anything. I didn't hear them if they did. But we sit there and watch the movie, and he'd come back. They said, he's going to practice when we get back.
We're going to be there till midnight.
Yeah. After we got back, I said, fellas, see you tomorrow.
They walked out of there scratching their heads, didn't they?
Yeah. They're quiet. Like, it was unreal how quiet they were.
What do you think that did for them in the long run? I mean, obviously shocked that day. But.
I don't know. The first thing I think they thought I was kind of nuts. I think they thought I'd lost it. I really did. But I don't know really what went through their minds, but I know one thing. They come back after that and play. Who do we play the next
week?
Belfry.
At Belfry.
Yeah, and Belfry was pretty good.
Right. And you wear Belfry out 47-6. Thomas goes for 222, scores 20 points. Chuck Anderson passed for nearly 100. So balanced attack, and you took care of business there against Belfry to keep that undefeated string going. And you have 2 more games left in the regular season. One of them's against Covenant Catholic, who we've talked about them. You had a running thing with them. You played every year against them, and since their inception, in '68, and it was just a great game for the Tomcats.
And they've had some good teams.
They beat you several times.
They beat us. They won a couple. I think they won 1 or 2 state championships.
Yeah, state championships. Just a great program there at Covenant Catholic always. And last time you played, you beat them 14-10 in the '73 season, and 33-0 in '72. So, but anyway, this game, it's the last home game of the year, or last regular season home game, and senior night and all that, I'm sure. Yeah. And you all put up 56 points against the Colonels, against Covenant Catholic, and win 56-14. So the last 2 weeks after that Hampton High game, which was, a little bit of a hiccup, although you still got to win, a little bit of a hiccup there. But the last 2 weeks you score over 100 points combined, and the offense is really clicking. In this game, I think you played a ton of people because Gary Thomas rushed for 51 yards and Jeff Sloan rushed for 48. He scored 56 points. Yeah. So a lot of other people got carries, in that game. Andy Moore was one of them. Dan Miller was one of them. Jim Johnson got some here. Jay Shippey, who was your fullback part-time too. Yeah. He and Johnson kind of shared that, And Jay was a hitter too, wasn't he?
Jay was a hitter. Jay was a good, hard runner.
Yeah,
and he was a leader too.
Yeah, he was. He was
the only
very
thing
good
about Jay, you had to watch him. He gets a little upset sometimes, and
he had a temper.
He had a temper, and had to keep him under control.
He definitely did. So now we're coming. You're undefeated. You're 10-0. Yeah, 10-0 going into the last regular season game, and you still haven't clinched the playoffs yet. Even though you're undefeated, ranked number 1, that doesn't matter. If you lose against Boyd County that next week, that season is ruined.
That's how things have changed since the day. You can lose all your games now and still get in the playoffs.
Not back then.
Yeah,
you lose a district game and you're done.
Yeah, that's right.
If it was
exactly. That's just like I always go back to '71. We didn't lose a game in district or at all,
and still couldn't get in. So this game, you're it's your old buddy Tom Scott. He's on the other side. No, he isn't. Yeah.
Let's see what.
No, he wasn't in this one. I don't think. I think Teeny had taken over. Teeny Van Hoos had taken over.
Yeah.
Tom's last year was 74.
Yeah.
So that was
Teeny was.
And of course Boyd's coming off 2 spectacular seasons, and they were really good this year too.
Yeah, they had the big
James
Tackett went to West Virginia.
Man, he was a load.
Yeah, he's about 6'2", about 220.
Straight up runner.
Yeah, run straight up.
But
good
run
speed.
over you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure people were talking. This is they haven't played us yet. You haven't played. The county's talking. I'm sure, and our guys are chirping back, and it's going to be a good game. Yeah. And you've made it pretty clear to Boyd County that you don't like them, and you're going. If you have the chance to beat them 100-0, then you'll beat them 100-0.
Yeah.
And they felt the same way.
Exactly. Tom and I agreed to that.
Yeah, you always said it's just whatever. It's football.
Yeah.
So and you want to beat your rival.
Yeah, we did it for our fans.
And the fans wanted it.
Yeah, they wanted to
of course,
wear them out.
Another, we've talked about this on these other Boyd County games, but of course this one was huge. It was another Super Bowl game out at Boyd County. Million people out there on the hillside, all around the track, and a lot of eyeballs on this game because the stakes were so high, and this Tomcat team was so good.
Yeah, and Boyd County was a good team.
And Boyd County was good. I don't remember their record.
I think their record was like
8-2, maybe. Yeah,
8-2.
Yeah, I think they were 8-2, maybe going into that game. You guys just destroyed them, 43-0. I don't know if it might still be the biggest margin. I'm not sure. They've beat them pretty bad lately. Last 20 years.
Yeah, they've beat them. I think
a lot.
Coach Mark.
But back then, it was that was really unusual.
I think in that 90 team, that 90 team was awful good.
90 team beat them really bad.
Yeah, I think 90 team.
And like I said, last 20 years they've really handled Boyd County. Even 30 years almost.
Yeah.
But then, Boyd County and Ashland, not a whole lot separated them in talent. I mean, you guys, both schools were big.
Exactly.
The coaching styles were similar. You all knew each other. But, boy, you all put it together that night. And you had Chuck threw for 159 yards. Rick Sane caught 75 of those. Yeah. And Jay Shippey was your leading rusher, as we talked about Jay a little bit ago. He had 68. But defense, again, this was the third shutout of the season. But all through the regular season, 11 games, only 4 teams scored 2 touchdowns. Nobody scored more than 2 touchdowns against Jaws. And a lot of those, Herb, were against the second team guys.
Third team.
So I don't know how many the Jaws team actually gave up.
They got upset with me a lot of times about that. But just like I said, I always wanted to play, get a lot of kids playing. And that's how you build these kind of teams like 75, when you get a lot of people with experience and playing. Sometimes you have to suffer a little bit, or you don't beat them by 60, you can beat them by 40 and get everybody in the game.
Exactly. Exactly. So now it's the playoffs, and you're happy to be back in. You hadn't been in since 72 when you guys rode it all the way to the championship game before losing. And this is the first year of Class 4A football. And the way they kind of separated things, Louisville has always been a league of its own in Kentucky to this point. Even in the playoffs and everything else, they had their own playoff, and everybody was kind of separated. Even in 72, you didn't have to play a Louisville team because they were separated. It was a different division. So now they're bringing them together, but they still keep it as all the state will play for a championship, basically, and then all of Louisville will play for a championship, and then those two will meet, and that for the overall championship of 4A. Yeah. So you had a 4A state at large, and you had a 4A Louisville, 4A Jefferson County.
Exactly.
So that's how it was set up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how it was designed. So you're going into this new system or whatever. And your first game, you have to go to Northern Kentucky, which I don't know how I think they determined it just by odd even regions. I don't think it mattered.
Yeah, I don't know.
Records.
We had to go out there.
You had to go, and it was the frozen tundra. And it can be really cold in November in Northern Kentucky. Covered many a cold game there.
That's the coldest game I was ever involved in. It was awful. I mean, they had when we got there, we saw all those big 50-gallon drums.
Yeah. Heaters
full with coal. Well, they had to, I guess bring food in, stuff like that. They cold and they burned it around. I think it's 4 on each side, their side and our side.
So they did at least give you all that.
Yeah, you could get around it and
get your hands.
Yeah.
Because
I always wore about the same thing. I didn't get cold. I stayed pretty warm.
Yeah, you were jacked up anyway, though. Your blood was moving.
I moved up and down.
Yeah, you were never staying in one place too long. And was this even colder than that '72 championship game? That was cold too.
No, I think the state championship game was the coldest game I ever.
Okay.
Yeah, ever was.
So, yeah, of course, Dixie Heights is on the river down there. Near the river. So it's always colder near the river.
See, in Stowefield, we didn't have anything to heat.
No way to keep warm. Mm-hmm. So this game, of course, it's a terribly cold game, and you guys stumbled a little bit. First half, I think you're ahead, but it's not
13-3.
Okay, 13-3, 13-6, something like that.
13-6.
Yeah, 13-6 lead, and Herb Conley's not happy with the Tomcats.
That's right.
So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I'll tell you what. We go in. Well, let me tell you before we go in. As we're playing, Keith Hill, when we're down there ready to score a touchdown, and Keith Hill gets 2 penalties on us, and the official
2 personal fouls.
Yeah, and I called the official. I said, "What's going on?" He said, "That kid's got the filthiest mouth I've ever heard in my life." I said, "What?" I said, "What's he doing?" He said, "Who's he talking to?" He said, "He's talking to the football." He said, "Yeah, he's cussing that football out." So I had to take him out of the game. I said, "Man," jumped on him. But I couldn't think. I said, "What are you doing talking to the football? I never heard nothing like that. Are you somebody knock you in the head and make you go dizzy?" He just looked at me. Which Keith was a good runner.
Oh yeah, fast.
Great speed.
Yeah.
He's a great kid, but sometimes he'd do some of the things that kind of upset you, get you want to run him till he drops, but you couldn't do that because he could run all day.
Oh yeah.
He could run all day.
So then, of course, like I said, the Tomcats are down 13-6. You should be ahead probably 3 or 4 scores.
Yeah.
And it's the playoffs. You can't lose. You lose now, and a lot is ruined of what you've done. So what did you do when you went in?
Well, I just had that incident with Keith.
So you're mad.
So I'm still upset. We're going in at halftime, and I'm mad at them all of them. As soon as we get up there, I grabbed. I think Terry Bell was the first one. I think I grabbed. I grabbed him and put him. And then in the dressing rooms, they had big mirrors up around the walls. I put him in front. I said, "I want you to look at yourself right now." I said, "I don't want you moving around. I don't want you talking to anybody." And then I got, let's see.
I know you got Rick.
Rick Singh and Terry Bell and Chuck Anderson.
Yeah.
And I put him in front of it. And all the players were looking at him. Nobody was saying anything. They saw me sit there and look at yourself and think about how you're playing, what you're representing, how you're doing things. Of course, I might have said a lot of other things. I really can't remember everything I said. But I said, "Don't you move until I come and tell you to." And I let them stay there for a long time because I wanted to get in and make some adjustments. But I wanted to make sure we got
their attention.
Got their attention, and everybody's too. That right there in 5 seconds got more attention than I could ever get.
Yeah.
With the 3 leaders out there.
Yeah.
Sitting, looking at them, not being able to move, but look at themselves.
Because more is expected of them, right? They're captains.
Oh, yeah. Kids looked up to them big time. They were
so how they went, the team was going to follow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And whatever we did, we come out the second half a different team.
Yeah. And the final score in that game was 36-6.
Yeah.
You wore them out second half. Gary Thomas rushed for 132 and Shippey 48, both underclassmen, I might add, both juniors. So something to look forward to already for next year. So Lafayette, now you're back home though, in Lafayette, Lexington School. you know, and a Lexington school that's already made one win in the playoffs, pretty good team, the Generals.
Yeah, they were, of course, Lafayette's always going to be good. They've got talent in that school, just like Bryan Station,
Right.
Tate's Creek. All those Lexington schools have a lot of talent. Big people, fast kids.
Yeah.
And so...
you got to play well.
Yeah, we got to play well. And then a lot of those guys played, when I was a freshman at Kentucky, a lot of those coaches that were seniors and juniors on that Kentucky team. That made me so happy when we whipped their butts. Kim Ashland. I'm sure they thought they were going to wear us out. But
in that game, Jeff Sloan goes wild, 138 yards. Thomas rushes for 71. And I think I'm not sure when Greg Jackson came back, but I think his ankle was still a little bit, or foot was a little bit game still. Yeah, so you put him on defense. He played defense.
More defense.
And
and get him every now and then.
Get him a carry here and there.
Yeah, get him some, because I was afraid that thing going to,
He ended up rushing for 350 yards on 43 carries, which is nearly 10 yards a carry.
Yeah.
So not too bad.
No.
So so now you're moving on to. This was really something. This was the state at large championship game, and Ashland gets the draw of having to go all the way across the state. If you drove to Paducah, it's about 12 hours. In one of those yellow buses, it would be probably 2 days. But I'm sure if we would have driven, it would have been a nice bus. But still, it was going to be. It's hard to drive 10, 12 hours and play against a really good football team.
It would probably take us 6-7 hours to drive, I think.
Oh, yeah. It's more than that to Paducah. Yeah. It's all the way other side, other corner. Yeah. Pikeville and Paducah, they always say, the two far corners of Kentucky. Yeah. It's you can get to Myrtle Beach quicker than you can get to Paducah. Because Kentucky's so wide.
Yeah. So
somebody gets the idea. Why don't we fly the Tomcats there?
Well, I think I mentioned it to somebody. They said, what would be the best way to get to there, down to Paducah? I said, well, flying would be the best way, the easiest way for us to get there. And then I think Hank Hillman, he must have heard it that the next day. They said we had enough money to
charter a flight.
Yeah.
So many of these guys flying for the first time, right?
Oh yeah.
What about you? Had you flown?
Oh, no, I've flown.
Yeah. So, when did you all leave? Did you leave Thursday?
No, I see. We left on a Thursday. We played Friday.
Played Friday.
Yeah, we left Thursday and stayed there Thursday night. No, I don't know if we did now. I think we left Friday, played Friday, stayed there Friday night.
I would think
not sure.
I think you went the day before, but I'm not positive. But I know I remember the send off. Was pretty big though, wasn't it?
Very big. Very big.
Yeah, people were so excited.
I'll tell you what was really big is when we come back from Paducah.
From when
it was big going down too.
Did you fly back or drive back?
We flew back.
You flew back. You flew down and flew back.
We flew down and we flew back.
Okay, and of course to get all that equipment and to get was that boosters?
Yeah,
project.
Yeah. Hank Hillman was the one that got that
together.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, him and Dirk. I take that back.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure Dirk had a lot.
Involved in that.
Yeah,
Dirk Payne did a lot for Ashland sports.
Dirk may have kicked in a lot of money to do that.
And I'll tell you what, I'm not sure if old Dirk wasn't the one first made that statement, we got to fly.
Yeah.
And I think they come and ask me, I said, well, yeah, wasn't it crazy not to fly if we can fly?
Yeah. So, man, you got people flying you down there. It's like, we better win, boys.
Yeah.
If we're going to get flown down here. So, what a football game, though, against Paducah. Great team, Paducah Tillman. They got a great tradition, too, much like Ashland's. And this game is for the state at large championship.
Mm-hmm.
It's a state championship.
Yeah. And I was always mad about that too, because there's a write-ups, a lot of big write-ups about being the state at large champion. We were talking about that now because we may have another game.
Yeah, there's even a trophy that says at large champion.
Yeah, and I said then you get a trophy. I said I don't understand.
Yeah, we got to win it all to get the trophy, right? Yeah. So anyway, that game, real defensive game. They were really good. They're fast. They're strong, big. They're shutting down the wishbone pretty well most of the night, really. Mm-hmm. And you guys missed an extra point in that game, and it was almost costly because you were behind 7-6. I think there's about 3 minutes left in the game. I'm thinking I might be wrong on that.
Gary busted that big one. I think a big block on that was.
We'll set that up. It's 7-6. You guys are way on your end of the field. I don't remember how long the run was, but it was long, 70 yards or something like that. And there's less than 3 minutes left. You haven't moved the ball well really all night.
Dougie Page made it.
Dougie Page made the block, so it's like an option to
counter.
A counter, okay,
Yeah,
inside counter.
Yeah.
And Gary gets a block, and he's off to the races.
Yeah,
and,
Dougie got a big block on that other end that got him free to the outside. Then he made a good. He juked that corner over there and got.
Then he was gone.
Yeah. But the guy was over Dougie, that the defense ends when I told you about that went to Notre Dame.
Yeah, wow. So in that game, Thomas rushes for 130. Greg Jackson rushed for 26 and scored the first touchdown.
Yeah, and he had made a great run. He got great effort. And he had to spin. He got hit.
Wow.
And he's on about the 2-yard line when they hit him. He spun it on that bad ankle, too. I know it was a bad ankle. And I thought he was going to break it again,
because it was bad all year. Yeah.
But he spun, got into the end zone.
Wow.
So a great effort. It was a big effort.
Yeah.
Big effort.
So that course that pulled you within 7-6, missed the extra point, and the defense has to come up with a big stop. They do. You get the ball deep in your territory, and Thomas wins it with an incredible run, great blocking to free him up front. Yeah. So, man, what a celebration that was, right?
You guys got that right. Big time.
I mean, because of several reasons. One, it's exciting to win like that. Mm-hmm. But two, you flew there, and I know you felt like, I'm sure the kids did too. We have to win this game for the town.
Exactly.
They have flown us down here.
Exactly.
A lot of businesses.
I think that was really the reason we won, because they didn't want to let the people of Ashland down, but getting the money up as quick as they did, and they were backing them. They better do something.
So they come back and, to a hero's welcome, as they should have.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you knew there's another team waiting.
Oh, yeah, man. Coming back, you'd think you won the state championship.
Right.
We did.
It was a state at large.
We won the state championship in 1967.
Yeah.
There was people all the way back.
City line,
and met us here. It was just like that. And then when we got to come back in the next day up at the airport, they were miles as we come in.
Wow.
You could say we drive in a limousine. Bill Thomas' dad worked for one of these. They have a big limousine for the coaches.
Is that right?
Drove us down through town, and I'm telling you, there's probably 4 or 5 miles, people on both sides lined up all the way down through there. Now, how many people were there, I don't know, but it's a bundle.
So, though, at this point, you don't know that much about St. X, but if they're undefeated and they won that game, it's going to be a war.
Exactly, we're going to be playing down there, because I knew whoever we played was going to be down there.
It's going to be in Louisville, and the teams. I mean, you're happy that they won that Paducah game, obviously.
Yeah,
and it's let's keep the celebration down, guys. We still. We want to try to finish this off with another win.
Exactly.
You when you got film on St. X, what were your thoughts?
We didn't get to see how they marched around the field. How many players they had. We just told they had a lot of people.
So you were just watching the game film, yeah.
So, and we never see all that. How many there? But what was so impressive about them on film, you'd be watching the offense. We always took numbers and and watch the offense, and as soon as they get off offense, we'd check defense and all different numbers. Then if the kicking team was in there, we checked numbers where people were all different numbers. Kickoffs, different people. Everybody on their team was played that one position. That was it. All the kicking game, defense, offense, and where our players played, some of them played maybe the whole
everything,
time.
Yeah.
In the game like that.
Rick Sang probably never came off the field.
Probably not.
Because he was kicker and punter.
He punted, and we had to have everybody like that.
Yeah.
And you get them, and our big kids, we try to give them some rest on the kids.
What'd you think, though? Did you think we could play with them?
Well, after looking, I still didn't ever thought, them that it was going to be that big. I never
a factory,
big a factory with all that. And I played college ball. When I played college ball at Easter, I played both ways.
Yeah.
I played defense, offense, and it's on the kicking.
So it's like, we can do this.
Yeah, so, I think we can do it. I think we can do it.
And man to man, you're looking at them and you're thinking, maybe we can handle this.
Well, man to man, I thought we could play.
Yeah.
But then the more I looked at him and they kept talking, everybody kept saying, I don't know if I talked to one of the coaches at Easter, it might have been Larry Marmy. Larry and I played at Easter together, and he's just got through coaching in the pros the last 22 years.
Right.
And remember he and I talking about that game, and he was coaching at Easter, and he said, your players were worn out. They were tired. Said you could tell the difference in them in the second half.
Right.
Scores to have 6-0 halftime.
Right. You're only behind 6-0 halftime.
And we were down to score and could have scored first, and it was on the 6-yard line.
Right.
And we had one of their linemen jump off sides.
Yeah.
And we didn't mention him, but
no.
He's a good player,
Very
boy.
good player.
Dave Early.
Yeah, I was going to say, we can mention him. He understands. He was a hit a great season.
Oh, yeah, he played well. And he
kind of filled in wherever you needed him, didn't he?
Yeah, he was always ready.
Great blocker.
And did a good job.
Great blocker.
He just
got anxious. It happens.
That's right. And I know Chuck Anderson. And
they tease him still.
They tease him. I was out playing golf one day with him.
Yeah.
And I think Dave Early was getting ready to hit, and old Chuck said, "That's it, Dave. Hit the ball too soon."
Yeah.
He said, "I remember you jumping off sides."
Yeah, they were brutal on him.
Oh, yeah, they were.
And when they were doing that little sprint, a few years ago, the three of them were racing, and I think Chuck said, "Don't start too soon, Dave."
Yeah.
Just constantly teasing him, but he takes it okay, my goodness,
they're good friends. They keep the tension.
And that's not to say you may have won that game, but you certainly could have. You maybe could have gone ahead.
Yeah.
And I think you missed a field goal. A short field goal.
Yeah, it was about on the.
You were on about 3 or 4.
I think it's 3-yard line.
So like about a 20-yard field goal, and kind of shanked it. And oh man, because that was the opening drive, right? You drove right down the field on them.
Yeah.
And I think they had said nobody had done that to them all year.
Yeah, you know what? This is truth, because I had a lot of the different coaches from different areas that I knew down there. And of course, they didn't like.
They all wanted him to lose.
They wanted St. X to lose.
Who was the coach? You remember at St. X?
He went to Kentucky and coached there for a while.
I can't.
I can't think of it right off.
Anyway, they end up scoring in the second quarter, I think. And
went ahead 6-0,
and to go ahead 6-0 at halftime. And let's talk about when they came out of the locker room to start the game, what that looked like.
Oh, I never seen nothing like it in my entire life. They come out walk. They didn't run. They walked. They come walking out of the dressing room. They walked from their dressing room. It was on one side of the field, across the goal line, got down in front of on the sideline, stayed on the line, all the way down, walked on the crossing the field.
You guys were in the middle working out or whatever, or getting loose.
No, we were standing.
Oh, you were just on the field. Okay.
We'd already been out there, and they walked. We were getting ready to go out. That's what it was. And we were watching.
So you're looking at this.
And they went all the way around the field, and then when the other guy got down, there was about 5 that had to wait. They went from one end all the way around to the other end, back to the starting place.
So this complete circle around the field, or square around the field.
Complete square. I never seen that. And in the pros.
And they were that green and yellow. Looked like the Green Bay Packers out there, didn't they?
Yeah.
I mean,
and I know that was to the players intimidating. It didn't bother me, but I knew that they were.
That was
thinking,
intimidating.
And a lot of those players, they played. Everybody had a defensive team, offensive team, talk to everything.
Right.
Everything was their own specialty.
Right. So the second half, a matter of fatigue. Your guys are playing both ways. They're seeing fresh faces every time they turn around, and slowly but surely, they score another couple touchdowns.
See, a lot of our players were on the kickoff teams, receiving teams,
right?
Where they had everybody special for them. They was rested all the time.
A great high school football team, though,
and they were good.
Yeah,
they were a good team.
Yeah, and they end up winning the game, 20-0. You played on an undefeated team, the last undefeated team in Ashland history, 1958, 10-0-1 team, didn't get the playoffs because they didn't have them at that time. So you knew how special undefeated
it meant.
Yeah. But I think this team has been very revered through the years. Maybe the nickname helped, the Jaws helped. It's a thing.
The Jaws team will never be forgotten.
Yeah. I think you're right, and I think you're always going to be connected, to that team and your coaching career. We talked about 72, which was that was a tremendous team.
Yeah,
maybe more talent overall. 71 and 72 than you had in 75 and 76.
Yeah, we had more. We had more
overall players.
Yeah.
Anyway, who knows if they'd have played, what would have happened, of course. But both eras they fed off each other. They were,
exactly.
It's part of the Tomcat tradition.
They were similar, very similar, tough.
But I think people, they love the nickname. I think they love the players that came out of that. We've talked a lot about Gary Thomas. Gary, as you said, is one of only 2 Tomcats who've been a 2-time All-State selection.
That's all.
And Jerry Clark was the other
Jerry
one.
Clark was the other.
So that's a pretty good feather in your cap right there.
Yeah, I guarantee you.
And Gary's run in that Paducah game will go down as one of the greatest in Ashland history too.
Exactly. And Dougie Page's block.
And Chuck Anderson's bad cat, from that year. And Rick Sang's punt returns and punts and kick returns.
Well, there's been a lot of players, Mark, we've had through the past, like guys like Johnny Rejunas and Paul Hill and Tom and Les Lyons, and we can name
right.
great players. Look at back in the Juan Thomas and Hunt.
Chris Hutt, yeah.
Chris Hutt.
Yeah, tremendous. Mike Johnson.
Charlie
Johnson. And
Ryan
Blake. It goes on and on.
There's so many guys that we've left out with their names. They were great players.
A guy, I was just looking at this list, a guy that was a pretty good linebacker for you too is Mike Sparks.
Mike Sparks was a very good football player.
Bill Wheeler played more than I think the next year, but he's a good player. Carl Nichols was a sophomore that year.
Carl was a good boy, hard worker.
Yeah.
But he had a son that played that.
The one tremendous player. And I'm just looking through, some of these others, seniors in particular. A great senior class for sure. And
Terry Lewis, we didn't think much about Terry. He was a center, but old Terry played really well.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about him. Yeah, he was very good. Like we mentioned Dave Early, of course.
Raymond Hicks, we talked about.
Your nephew, Mark Conley.
Mark was a very good defensive.
Great defensive
safety.
back. Yeah,
and he did a good job at quarterback.
Yeah,
and we'll talk a little more about him.
Later. Rob Ratliff was on that.
Yeah, Rob scored a touchdown against
our former police captain.
Yeah.
And Rob's a great guy. We will hear more about him later, and some of these other guys too.
Dean and Danny Miller.
Alan Mayo.
Alan Mayo was a good one.
Yeah,
Alan was smart.
Alan was a really good player.
I tell you, he wasn't very big, but he was a hitter.
Mm-hmm.
And he played more of his head. He could outsmart people. He was that intelligent.
And a lot, just a whole lot of great players, great names. Andy Moore was on that team. Andy can cook, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I know. Andy was a good little fullback.
Yeah, he was tough. He was only a sophomore, on the Jaws team. But all these guys that played on this team, have a connection that very few people in Ashland have. And like you said, just to do as well as they did, the 14-1 season, and that was the 1975 Ashland Jaws team. Herb, I totally agree with you. I think it'll be one of the best remembered teams in Ashland history. Already has been when you think it happened nearly 50 years ago.
Exactly.
And people still think about them and talk about them.
They do.
And so this is a great one. We hope you enjoyed it. We know we went a little long today, but that's just how it works when you have great seasons like that. We hope you'll join us again next time when we talk about Herb Conley's last season as Tomcat head coach. He ended up coaching again for Sims Valley later as a head coach, but his last season at Ashland was 1976, and we're going to talk about that on our next episode. We hope you join us. Thanks.